My friends, today I want to wake you up to a truth so powerful it could change your financial life forever. You've been searching for success, working hard, pushing every day, and yet something still feels out of reach. Let me tell you why. They hid a secret from you, not out of malice always, sometimes out of ignorance, but it's a truth so potent, so raw, that once you embrace it, you'll never be the same again. If you're broke, it's not simply because there's no money in your account. That's only the surface. The deeper cause lies in your belief system, the stories you've accepted about money, your worth, and what's possible for you. Every dollar you earn or lose starts as a thought. The world you live in, the choices you make, the opportunities you see or miss, they are all filtered through the lens of your mindset. If you carry thoughts of lack, you will continue to encounter lack, no matter how hard you work or how many hours you grind. Your beliefs are like silent architects building the structure of your life. If you believe money is hard to get, it will always slip through your hands. If you think wealth is reserved for the lucky or the dishonest, your subconscious will sabotage every attempt you make to rise. These beliefs often aren't even yours. They were handed to you by society, family, and institutions that never questioned them. But once you accept them as truth, they become your personal limitations, dictating how far you think you can go. To break free, you must first become aware. You have to observe your internal dialogue, the words you say to yourself about success, failure, money, and your value. Catch those thoughts when they whisper, "I'm not good enough," or "I can't afford that," or "people like me don't get rich." Because every time you repeat them, you're training your mind to obey limitation. Changing this script requires intentionality, affirming abundance, visualizing success, and surrounding yourself with beliefs that support growth. This mental shift is not magical thinking, it's alignment. When your beliefs align with abundance, you start to notice new doors opening. You meet different people. You speak with more confidence. You take more strategic action. The world outside begins to reflect the world inside. Opportunities that once seemed invisible suddenly become obvious, and because your mind is no longer rejecting them, you allow yourself to receive them. The truth is, money follows belief. If you believe deeply in your capacity to create, to add value, to build something meaningful, wealth begins to move toward you. But if your thoughts are stuck in fear and unworthiness, you'll repel the very things you desire. Your mind is either your prison or your passport. When you master your thoughts, you master your life, and the moment you believe you are worthy of abundance, you step into the power to create it. From a young age, you were conditioned to chase money as if it were the ultimate prize, a distant treasure that could only be earned through endless labor and sacrifice. Society taught you to idolize the paycheck, to measure success by how much you earn rather than how much value you bring. This mindset forces people into a constant state of desperation, always running, always grasping, yet never truly arriving. It traps you in a cycle where money controls your choices instead of you controlling money. This way of thinking leaves little room for creativity, fulfillment, or real growth. But here's what they never explained: money is not a goal, it's a result. It's a mirror reflecting how well you've learned to serve others, how deeply you understand the needs of the world, and how skillfully you can meet those needs. The most financially successful people aren't the ones who run after money. They are the ones who attract it effortlessly because they've positioned themselves as valuable assets. They offer solutions, ideas, and leadership. They don't beg for wealth, they magnetize it by becoming indispensable. The world rewards usefulness. If you can solve problems that others can't, you'll never be broke. But that kind of value doesn't come from copying what everyone else is doing. It comes from developing your own skills, nurturing your unique talents, and paying attention to the struggles people face. The more problems you can solve and the more people you can help, the more doors will open. But when you're stuck chasing money, you miss those opportunities because your eyes are on the finish line instead of the process. When you begin to shift your focus from getting money to becoming valuable, something changes. You stop feeling desperate. You stop compromising your time and energy on things that don't fulfill you. Instead, you begin to ask, how can I help? What can I improve? Where can I lead? And that shift in focus becomes the very thing that pulls abundance toward you. Money becomes a natural outcome, a byproduct of the value you bring into the lives of others. They never taught you this in school because the system was designed to create workers, not creators. You were taught to obey, to follow, to wait for a paycheck instead of learning how to create wealth. But now you know better. Money is not something you chase like a starving man chasing crumbs. It's something that follows you when you've done the inner work, developed your strengths, and focused on contribution. When you stop chasing and start building value, money will chase you. Every day, life presents you with windows of opportunity, but most people never open them because they're too afraid of what's on the other side. We're taught to seek safety, to play it smart, to avoid risks and stay in our comfort zones. That comfort becomes a trap. It feels warm and familiar, but it also keeps you stuck. Growth only happens when you step into the unknown, when you stretch beyond what feels safe and confront what feels uncertain. But instead, you've been applauded for staying small, for not rocking the boat, for following the rules. Fear has been your silent master. It's disguised itself as logic, caution, and even wisdom. It whispers in your ear every time you think about doing something bold. What if you fail? What will people say? What if you lose everything? These thoughts are not facts, they're illusions. They are echoes of other people's fears, passed down to you like old hand-me-down clothes that never truly fit. And while fear keeps you protected, it also keeps you powerless. The truth is, the path to success is paved with risk. There is no greatness without it. Look closely at those who have achieved what you want. They were not immune to fear. They felt the same trembling in their stomach, the same doubts in their minds, but they moved forward anyway. They made decisions without guarantees, took steps without full clarity, and invested in themselves when nothing was certain. That's the difference. While others waited for the perfect moment, they created it. They didn't ask for permission, they took ownership of their future. You must understand that risk is not the enemy, it's the gatekeeper. It stands between where you are and where you want to be. It tests your desire, your belief, and your courage. The size of your breakthrough is directly related to the size of your leap. Playing it safe may protect you from discomfort, but it also protects you from abundance. Every time you avoid risk, you trade your potential for temporary peace. You stay in the known, and the known keeps you broke. When you start to lean into uncertainty, you awaken something powerful inside you. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to act boldly. You begin to move with the kind of energy that creates momentum. The world doesn't reward hesitation, it rewards courage. And once you realize that everything you truly want is on the other side of fear, you stop waiting, you start doing, you stop hiding behind safety, and you start building a life that's bold, wealthy, and fully yours. From the time we're children, we're taught that hard work is the golden key to success. We hear it from parents, teachers, and mentors. Work hard and everything will fall into place. But as we grow older, reality shows a different picture. You see people working 2 jobs, hustling day and night, barely able to make ends meet. You see others working fewer hours, living in luxury and enjoying freedom. This contradiction makes one thing clear: hard work alone does not guarantee wealth. It's important, but it's not the whole story. Effort without direction is just movement without progress. You can sweat every day and still be stuck in the same place if your energy isn't focused where it counts. There are people who pour their life into labor but never learn how money actually works, how to multiply it, or how to create systems that generate wealth. They trade time for money, and when they run out of time, they run out of income. The truth they were never told is that wealth isn't just earned, it's designed. The people who rise above are not always the hardest workers in the traditional sense. They are the ones who combine effort with intelligence. They work on the right things. They identify leverage points, areas where one smart move creates massive results. They don't just repeat tasks, they build systems. They don't just clock in and clock out. They ask themselves, how can I scale this? How can I turn this into an asset that works for me? Their minds are working even when their hands are still. It's not about avoiding hard work, it's about making your hard work count. It's about aligning your efforts with opportunity, not just grinding for the sake of it. When you apply your energy strategically, you can accomplish in a year what some people never accomplish in a lifetime. That's the secret they never taught you, that direction matters more than speed. You could be running fast, but if you're headed the wrong way, you're only getting further from your goal. So if you find yourself exhausted, doing everything you can, and still not seeing results, pause. Step back. Ask yourself, am I working smart? Am I building something, or just busy surviving? The shift happens when you begin to value your time, your skills, and your ability to think as much as your ability to do. That's when you move from struggle to strategy, from endless labor to intentional success. Wealth favors the wise, not just the weary. From your earliest days in school, you were handed a formula for life. Study hard, follow rules, get good grades, and eventually you'll earn a living. You were taught how to memorize facts, how to sit still, how to obey authority, but you were never taught how to build wealth. You learned algebra, but not how to manage a budget. You studied history, but not how to invest. You were trained to become a good employee, not an independent thinker. This was not an accident. It was the structure of a system designed to produce workers, not creators. Money, the very thing most people will spend their entire lives chasing, was the one subject never fully explained. You were told to save it, avoid debt, and live within your means, but no one taught you how it actually flows, how it grows, or how it can work for you. Financial education was left out of the curriculum entirely. And because you never learned it, you were left to figure it out through trial, error, and often painful mistakes. While you were busy learning to follow instructions, others were quietly learning how to build empires. What you didn't see is that behind the scenes, a different education was taking place, one passed down in quiet conversations at dinner tables, in private schools, and in powerful social circles. The children of the wealthy were not just learning math, they were learning how money multiplies. They weren't just reading textbooks, they were watching investments compound, assets accumulate, and businesses scale. This is the knowledge that separates those who work for money from those who make money work for them. And while the masses were being told to get a safe job and save for retirement, the elite were being taught how to leverage systems, acquire assets, and legally minimize taxes. They were being shown how to think like owners, not workers. So, when people wonder why the gap between rich and poor keeps widening, the answer is simple. One group is equipped with the real rules of the game, and the other is left guessing. And if you don't know the rules, how can you ever expect to win? But here's the good news: once you become aware of this, you can choose to break the pattern. You can start to unlearn what kept you blind and begin educating yourself on the truth about money. You don't need permission. You just need curiosity and commitment. Read books, study those who have mastered wealth, learn how to invest, how to build income streams, how to create value that scales. Because once you understand how money truly works, you're no longer a servant to the system, you're in control of your future. From the moment we enter the system school, society, the workplace, we're encouraged to follow the crowd, blend in, don't question authority, stick to what's proven. You're taught to color inside the lines and walk the path that everyone else is walking. The problem is, that path doesn't lead to freedom. It leads to mediocrity. And while you're being applauded for fitting in, the ones who break away are the ones creating empires, building movements, and shaping the future. You weren't meant to be a copy, you were meant to be a creator. Wealth does not come to those who conform, it comes to those who innovate. Every breakthrough, every invention, every world life-changing idea was born from someone who dared to do things differently. They weren't afraid to speak a new truth, build something unheard of, or challenge what others believed was impossible. Yet, most people shrink their ideas, mute their voices, and silence their originality because they're afraid of being judged, rejected, or misunderstood. And in doing so, they bury the very gifts that could make them rich not just financially, but spiritually and creatively. The world doesn't need more copies. It needs visionaries, people willing to think for themselves, act on their ideas, and create something bold. But society has trained you to seek approval rather than pursue authenticity. You were taught that it's better to be accepted than to stand alone. So you play small, dress down your dreams, and talk yourself out of the very ideas that could set you free. The fear of judgment becomes more powerful than the desire to succeed, and as a result, your potential stays locked inside you. Real wealth starts when you stop asking for permission. When you trust your instincts and lean into your uniqueness, you open the door to opportunities others can't even see. You begin to attract the right people, the right chances, the right energy, not because you followed the rules, but because you broke them in the name of your vision. The most successful people in the world aren't always the smartest or the most educated. They are simply the ones who had the courage to be original when everyone else chose to conform. The moment you decide to stand out, you take back your power. You reclaim your voice, your creativity, and your vision for what life could be. And in doing so, you tap into a force that no system can control. Wealth, freedom, and fulfillment don't come from being like everyone else. They come from being fully and unapologetically you. Stop shrinking to fit. The world is waiting for what only you can offer, and the moment you give it, everything begins to change. Most people say they want success, but what they really mean is that they'd like it. If it's convenient, if it's easy, if it doesn't cost them too much. They treat success like a casual preference, not a non-negotiable. And that's why they remain stuck. Wishing is passive. It's a soft hope, not a firm decision. Wishing waits, but desire, true, burning desire, is active. It moves, it acts, it refuses to be denied. Until your want becomes a fire that won't let you sleep, success will continue to slip through your fingers like sand. The people who rise to the top, who build wealth and power and impact, aren't driven by half-hearted intentions. They don't say, "I'll try," or "maybe someday." They make a decision and then they build their life around it. Their desire becomes obsession, not in a reckless way, but in a focused, all-in way. They think about their goals when they wake up, they work on them while others rest, and they refuse to be distracted by things that don't align with their vision. That kind of intensity creates momentum, and momentum attracts results. When your desire is lukewarm, the universe responds the same way. You get half opportunities, half commitments, half success. Life doesn't reward indecision. It rewards those who know what they want and are willing to pay the price for it. That price is focus, that price is sacrifice, that price is consistency when no one's watching. But when you pay it willingly, desire begins to move mountains. Things shift in your favor, not because luck arrives, but because you stopped tolerating anything less than your vision. There's a reason people who want something badly enough always find a way. They break through obstacles that would stop others. They stay in the game when others quit. They learn, adapt, fail, and try again. Not because they enjoy the struggle, but because their desire leaves them no other option. When your dream becomes a must instead of a maybe, you tap into a power that most never touch. Your mind begins to see answers instead of problems. Your actions become aligned, and your life begins to mirror the fire that burns inside you. So ask yourself honestly, how badly do you want it? Are you wishing or are you committed? Because success doesn't come to the one who hopes the most. It comes to the one who refuses to settle. When your desire consumes you, when it becomes part of your identity, when you no longer accept excuses or delays, that's when things change. That's when you stop chasing success and start embodying it. That's when wealth, power and purpose begin to find you, many people go through life unsure of what they really want. They wake up, go to work, come home, and repeat the cycle without ever pausing to ask themselves where they're headed or why they're even on that path. This aimless drifting feels normal because so many others are doing the same. But just because it's common doesn't mean it's right. Without a clear purpose, your actions lose direction, your motivation fades, and your potential remains untapped. You end up working hard but going nowhere, constantly moving but never progressing. Purpose gives meaning to effort. It's the internal compass that turns ordinary work into a mission. When you know why you're doing something, you gain clarity and energy that others simply don't have. You no longer need to be pushed or reminded. Your purpose becomes the fuel. And when life throws challenges your way, you don't crumble. You push through because you're anchored to something deeper than a paycheck or a title. You have a reason, and that reason becomes your driving force. Those who create wealth are rarely the most talented or the most fortunate, they are the most focused. They choose a goal, they study it, they obsess over it, and they align everything in their life to support that goal. Their thoughts, habits, and decisions are all shaped by their purpose. That's why they move faster, make smarter choices, and attract opportunities others don't see. Purpose gives them laser focus, and with focus comes power, the power to say no to distractions and yes to what truly matters. Without purpose, everything feels heavy. You hesitate more, procrastinate more, and settle more. You become easily influenced by trends, opinions, and fears because you have no internal standard guiding your decisions. It's like flying through a storm with no destination. You're just trying to stay in the air instead of landing somewhere meaningful. The wealthy understand that purpose is not just about passion, it's about precision. It's the decision to live intentionally instead of reactively. Finding your purpose isn't about having all the answers today. It's about choosing a direction and moving with intent. It's about asking, what impact do I want to make, and what kind of life do I want to build? Once that clarity sets in, your time becomes sacred, your energy becomes focused, and your steps become powerful. Purpose is the difference between wandering and winning. When you live with it, you no longer chase money, you attract it by becoming a person of depth, conviction, and unstoppable direction. Most people wait for motivation to strike before they act. They look for the perfect moment, the right energy, or a wave of inspiration to carry them forward. But the truth is, motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes like the weather. One day you feel unstoppable, the next day you don't want to get out of bed. If your progress depends on your mood, you'll never build anything lasting. The ones who wait for inspiration often remain stuck in cycles of starting and stopping, never truly gaining momentum. Those who achieve greatness don't rely on feelings, they rely on systems. They build habits that serve them regardless of how they feel. They wake up early even when they're tired, they show up when it's uncomfortable, and they do the work whether or not they're in the mood. Discipline becomes the backbone of their success. It's not glamorous, and it doesn't always feel good, but it creates consistency, and consistency creates results. That's the hidden structure behind every empire. Routines are the scaffolding that support your goals. When motivation fades, routines keep you moving forward. You don't have to think, argue with yourself, or find the will, you simply follow the process you already built. Over time, these small daily actions compound. The gym sessions, the focused hours, the early mornings, the extra effort, they stack on top of each other, quietly building a life of strength and achievement. Discipline is what bridges the gap between your goals and your reality. People often admire the success of others without realizing the level of structure and sacrifice behind it. They see the outcome, but not the daily grind. What separates the wealthy, the fulfilled, the high achievers is not just talent or opportunity, it's their commitment to show up when others don't. Discipline doesn't always feel rewarding in the moment, but it delivers results that last far longer than any burst of motivation ever could. It makes you dependable not just to others but to yourself. If you want to build anything meaningful, wealth, health, purpose, freedom, you need to stop waiting to feel ready. Start showing up regardless. Build habits that make you stronger, create systems that simplify your progress, train yourself to act even when it's hard. That's how you become powerful, not because you're always inspired, but because you've chosen discipline over convenience. That choice, repeated day after day, is what transforms your life. From the beginning, you were taught to play it safe. You were told to save every penny, avoid debt, stay within your means, and never take big risks. These lessons were often passed down with love, shaped by generations who struggled through hard times. But what they didn't tell you is that fear-based financial advice, while well-intentioned, can also keep you small. Saving is important, but no one builds wealth by hoarding. You grow when you invest, and the most powerful investment you can ever make is in yourself. People often hesitate to spend money on their own development. They'll think twice before buying a book, joining a course, or hiring a mentor, but won't blink before spending the same amount on entertainment or temporary comfort. That mindset keeps them stuck. You are your most important asset. Your ability to think, learn, grow, and adapt determines how far you go, yet most people treat themselves like liabilities, constantly questioning their worth instead of building it. They cut corners on their growth while hoping for big results. The truth is, every successful person has made sacrifices to sharpen their skills, deepen their knowledge, and surround themselves with the right guidance. They didn't see investing in themselves as a cost, they saw it as a seed. That seed, planted with discipline and nourished with consistency, eventually blooms into confidence, clarity, and opportunity. They knew that every dollar spent on becoming better would return in ways that compound over time in relationships, influence, and income. If you never spend time or energy upgrading your thinking, you're using outdated tools to fight modern battles. The world is evolving fast, and those who don't evolve with it are left behind. The people who win are the ones who stay hungry to learn, who stretch themselves beyond what's comfortable, and who take bold steps even when there's no guarantee. They take calculated risks, not reckless ones, and often, those risks involve betting on their own growth before anything else. So if you've been taught to shrink, to play it safe, to avoid any investment that doesn't offer instant rewards, it's time to rewire that thinking. You are your foundation. Your habits, your mindset, your education, your network, these are the real assets that generate wealth. Every time you invest in becoming more, you increase your value in the marketplace of life. And the more valuable you become, the more life returns to you, not by chance, but by choice.